Dear Libra, something has ended inside you, and this time, it's permanent. But what's returning may shock you even more. Yes, I said it right at the beginning, because I need your heart to be fully here. This is not just another astrology video. This is a divine message that chose you at this exact moment because your soul is ready to hear something you've been avoiding or silently preparing for. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where the stars speak in metaphors and your intuition leads the way. Here, we don't just interpret cards, we hold space for truth, healing, and the unseen forces guiding your destiny. Libra, you've always been the sign that values balance, harmony, and beauty. But what happens when keeping the peace comes at the cost of your own voice? Something inside you has been crumbling quietly for a while, a version of you that kept saying, "I'm fine," even when you were bleeding emotionally. That version is now gone. And that's not something to fear. That is sacred. You see, we are in a cosmic season where souls like yours are being called to stop compromising with pain and start aligning with truth, even if it disrupts everything familiar. And guess what? Someone from your past is sensing that shift. They feel your glow. They feel your distance. And they're coming back. But let me be clear, this return is not a reward. It's a reflection. They are returning to face a version of you they never thought would exist, powerful, healed, sovereign. And Libra, this moment, this sacred cycle is not about rekindling what was. It's about witnessing who you've become in the aftermath. So before we dive deeper into this reading, I want to pause and just say this. Thank you. Truly. Thank you for being here, for showing up not just to this video but to your own healing journey. Every time you like, comment, subscribe, or share these messages, you're not only supporting this channel, you're activating your own sacred contract with the universe. And I promise you, what you're about to hear, you'll want to stay until the very last moment. Because what the cards are revealing today goes beyond romance, beyond closure. It speaks to your rebirth. You're not here by chance. You're here because a sacred ending has begun. And now, it's time to rise. If this already resonates with something you've been feeling lately, that sense of letting go, or that familiar presence coming back into your energy field, then I invite you to comment below and affirm it with these words. I am ready to face the truth and live fully in my soul's light. Now, take a breath. Because what's next is nothing short of cosmic. There are moments in life when something inside you quietly stops. Not with drama or noise, but with a calm certainty that whispers, "I'm done." For Libra, this moment isn't about rebellion, it's about release. You've spent so much time striving for balance, sacrificing your own needs just to keep the peace around you. You've smiled while your heart broke, said yes when every fiber of your being wanted to say no, and tolerated more than your soul was ever meant to carry. But now, that version of you, the one who compromised to keep things pretty on the outside, has gracefully laid itself to rest. In astrology, Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony, beauty, and relational magnetism. But Venus also holds deep lessons about self-worth, about knowing when peacekeeping becomes self-erasure. When we look at the Death card through the lens of transformation, it doesn't speak of destruction. It speaks of purification. It marks the sacred space between who you were and who you are becoming. Something old has expired within you, and that expiration is not a loss. It is a necessary surrender. Many Libras right now may find themselves exhausted without knowing why. Sleep becomes fragmented, passions once adored now feel dull, and the very habits that used to comfort now seem foreign. This is not depression. This is detox. What your soul used to cling to is no longer aligned. And when the soul no longer consents to old patterns, the body begins to shed emotionally, energetically, sometimes even physically. This stage is incredibly sacred. It's the space where masks fall off, roles dissolve, and the gentle but firm truth of who you really are begins to surface. Yes, it's disorienting. Yes, you may feel like something inside you is dying. And you'd be right, it is. But what's dying isn't your essence. It's the performative version of you that tried too hard to keep everyone else comfortable. That version may have protected you once, but now it's time to let her rest. There's a quiet power in choosing not to explain yourself anymore. There's freedom in not needing to justify your boundaries, your feelings, your shift. This is where your next evolution begins, not in noise, but in stillness. The stillness of saying, this no longer fits. And I no longer need to hold it. You see, transitions don't always come with closure. Sometimes, the closure is internal. It's you closing the door that someone else left open too long. It's you recognizing that peace is no longer the absence of conflict, peace is the presence of truth. And truth doesn't always look harmonious at first. But it always sets you free. From the wisdom traditions, not just spiritual, but practical, there's a reminder that every ending births a beginning. And when that ending comes from a place of clarity rather than bitterness, it prepares fertile ground for joy to take root. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared for a season where you no longer mold yourself into someone else's expectations. So, if you've been wondering why your patience is wearing thin, why certain friendships feel misaligned, or why the roles you've played no longer feel like yours, this is it. You're not broken. You're breaking free. And freedom doesn't arrive when everything makes sense. It arrives when you finally trust that not everything needs to. Trust yourself now. The pain is not a punishment. It's an initiation. You're not falling apart, you're falling into alignment. And what's ahead will not require you to shrink. It will require you to rise. Sometimes, just when you've started to find your rhythm again, a familiar presence reemerges, not by chance, but by energetic alignment. You've changed, Libra. Not just superficially, but at your core. Your vibration, your clarity, your boundaries, they now radiate from a place of self-respect rather than the need to keep others comfortable. And it's that very shift that pulls old energies back into your orbit. But don't mistake this return as validation. More often than not, it's a test, not a reward. When someone from the past returns, especially someone who once held power over your emotions, it can stir a mix of nostalgia, hope, confusion, and even guilt. But here's the truth. They are not coming back because they have grown to match your new energy. They're coming back because your light now highlights the parts of themselves they haven't yet faced. You become a mirror, not a match. This is where your healing speaks for itself. The version of you that might have once over-explained, over-gave, or over-apologized, she no longer answers the door. The question is no longer whether they have changed. The real question is, do you still need this lesson? Because healing isn't proven by shutting your heart. Healing is shown by how you hold your center when the emotional tide pulls you back toward the past. It's not uncommon, especially for Libra, a sign so relational, so driven by fairness, to wonder whether revisiting old connections is a sign of divine timing. But timing means nothing if the dynamic hasn't changed. You're no longer a participant in the same script. And that's a powerful thing. In energy work, this is known as a vibration mismatch. The frequencies no longer meet where they once did, and so instead of connection, there is tension. The wisdom here is simple but profound. Not everyone who returns is meant to stay. Some are just echoes, reminders of how far you've come. And you're not obligated to open a door just because someone finally found the courage to knock. The boundary you hold now is a reflection of your worth, not your bitterness. It's okay to outgrow those who once felt like home. Because if being with someone means abandoning the peace you've finally found, then it's not home anymore. If this moment feels emotionally charged or confusing, don't rush to act. Use tools that anchor you. Journaling can be incredibly healing. Write down what you felt when you first saw them reappear in your life. Was it comfort, or was it anxiety disguised as familiarity? You might even choose to write a letter to them, one you'll never send, to release the words you no longer need to speak out loud. Some people cut cords through energy visualization, others through physical rituals like cleaning spaces that still hold emotional memory. What matters most is your intention. In many spiritual traditions and even biblical wisdom, there's a quiet reminder: not every door needs to be reopened just because you once walked through it. Peace is not the absence of people, it's the presence of clarity. And the clarity you've gained came at a cost. You earned it. So the next time someone from your past shows up with promises or questions, pause. Not to make them wait, but to honor the silence you worked so hard to create. Ask yourself gently, with honesty, am I being drawn back or being asked to rise? And if you're unsure, that's okay too. Sometimes, the greatest strength isn't choosing to love again. It's choosing to love yourself enough to walk away again, and again, until staying gone no longer feels like a sacrifice, but a celebration of how far you've come. Without even realizing it, there comes a moment when you stop asking for permission to take up space and start simply embodying it. Libra, what's happening within you right now isn't loud or showy, but it is monumental. You are no longer relying on the world to mirror your value back to you. Instead, your value radiates from within, quietly, gracefully, and undeniably. It's not about proving your worth anymore. It's about living it. This is the sacred emergence of the empress energy, the part of you that is both soft and sovereign. The empress doesn't need to chase validation. She creates beauty because it overflows from her. She sets boundaries not out of fear, but out of love for herself. And right now, Libra, you are embodying that same power. Every time you say no to something that once drained you, every time you don't reach out to someone who wouldn't have noticed your silence before, you are tending to your own garden. And that garden is beginning to bloom. Astrologically, Venus, your ruling planet, teaches not only about attraction and beauty, but about alignment. True beauty isn't surface level, it's the energy that emerges when a person is deeply at home in themselves. And what's most magnetic about you right now isn't how you look or what you say, it's the quiet, confident way you've begun to honor your own needs first. That shift is subtle, but it is powerful. Others may not be able to name it, but they feel it. And they are drawn to it. But it's important to remember, not everyone deserves access to this new version of you. Your light isn't meant to shine for validation, it's meant to illuminate your path and nourish your growth. If someone cannot meet you at the level you've risen to, it's okay to let them remain in the past chapters of your story. You are not responsible for bringing everyone along. You are responsible for protecting the light you've worked so hard to grow. From a soul growth perspective, the energy of expansion often follows a period of pruning. You let go of outdated habits, roles, and relationships. You redefined your inner compass. And now, the universe responds not with noise, but with opportunity. This is why new ideas may start to spark, or why you might feel a pull toward fresh routines, unfamiliar places, or unexplored passions. These are invitations from life to step into a version of yourself that has been patiently waiting in the wings. During this phase, pay attention to how your body responds. Colors like soft pink can help you reconnect with tenderness and self-love, while mint green brings a breath of freshness and emotional clarity. Golden tones encourage you to say yes to the unexpected opportunities that now match your new frequency. Let your outer environment reflect your inner awakening. Even something as simple as changing your bedding color, lighting a new candle, or wearing a different shade can affirm the transformation taking place within. And if you've noticed that you text less, explain yourself less, or feel less urgency to be understood, take that as a sign. You're glowing differently now. The kind of glow that comes from not needing to be rescued, but from choosing to be your own safe place. That's a rare kind of light, the kind that doesn't seek an audience, but inevitably draws one. If you're feeling this shift, I invite you to share in the comments, what has changed in your patterns lately? What no longer feels urgent to fix, chase, or hold on to? Your awareness might be exactly the mirror someone else needs today. And as a gentle reminder, the more you honor your light, the less you'll fear losing people who never truly saw it in the first place. Keep rising. You are not behind. You are blooming, right on time. Sometimes the heart doesn't want revenge. It just wants to understand. It's a quiet ache, that pull to make sense of the pain, to search for closure in a sentence, in a text, in a long-awaited apology. But Libra, what you're learning now is that justice isn't always about words. In fact, the truest form of justice often arrives in silence, not in what someone says, but in what you choose to no longer carry. This is your justice card moment, and it's not about punishment. It's about realignment. It's about reclaiming your time, your peace, and your emotional clarity. As someone ruled by Venus and deeply driven by the need for fairness, it's natural for you to search for meaning when things fall apart. But meaning doesn't always come packaged in an explanation. Sometimes, the clearest form of peace is not in knowing why something happened, but in knowing that you no longer need to hold it close. You may still feel emotional tremors from what happened, moments of doubt, memories that come uninvited, or the echo of unanswered questions. That's normal. Growth doesn't erase your humanity. But here's the shift: you no longer need answers to validate your healing. You survived. You evolved. You are no longer in the same emotional room where that story was written. And because of that, the apology you thought you needed becomes less and less relevant. Your wholeness isn't dependent on their regret. From a cosmic perspective, Justice isn't transactional, it's energetic. The universe doesn't always bring back those who hurt us with an apology, but it does often replace the loss with something far more aligned, a safe love, a thriving path, a deeper connection with self. In many traditions, both ancient and modern, the law of cause and effect reminds us that no energy is ever lost. What was taken from you will return, but it may arrive in a form you didn't expect, in your next opportunity, in a restful night, in the sense of lightness you now feel walking away. There are practical things you can do now to anchor this emotional reset. Writing an unsent letter is a beautiful first step. Not for them, for you. Put into words the emotions still lingering, even the ones you're tired of revisiting. Write it all down, then decide whether to burn it, shred it, or keep it tucked away. What matters is that your voice is no longer silenced, even if the other person never hears it. You might also try what I call emotional unbinding, a form of meditation where you visualize the energetic cord between you and the person or situation. With each breath, you loosen that cord, not out of anger, but out of sovereignty. It's a way of telling your body and your mind, this is no longer mine to carry. And let's not underestimate the digital clutter we accumulate. Detoxing your social media feed can do wonders. Unfollow or mute accounts that reignite emotional confusion or nostalgia that no longer serves your forward motion. Your digital space is sacred. Protect it like your peace depends on it, because in many ways, it does. This is a pivotal point, Libra. You are not waiting for justice to arrive. You are becoming the embodiment of it. Every choice you now make in favor of your peace, your growth, your truth, that is justice. That is the scale tipping in your favor. And sometimes, as one wise voice once said, the real reward for surviving the storm is not hearing someone say sorry. It's waking up one day and realizing you don't need them to. Change rarely arrives with a loud announcement. Most often, it whispers through a quiet nudge in your gut, a strange dream that keeps repeating, or the sudden clarity that something you've been holding on to no longer fits. Libra, you are standing at an energetic intersection, and while both paths may feel familiar, only one leads to your expansion. On one side is nostalgia, the longing for what once brought comfort but now feels restrictive. On the other is a call towards something greater, undefined, maybe even scary, but deeply aligned with the person you're becoming. The wheel of fortune appears when the energy around you is shifting, often beyond your immediate control, but never beyond your ability to respond. It marks a season of motion, of divine momentum. And while you may not get to choose the external events unfolding, you absolutely get to choose how you meet them. Your willingness to surrender what no longer serves you is the key to stepping into what's next. Letting go, especially for Libra, can be deeply emotional. This is the sign that cherishes history, beauty, and connection, often going to great lengths to preserve what once felt harmonious. But there comes a time when the harmony you're maintaining externally creates dissonance inside you. That's when the wheel begins to turn. And when it does, clinging too tightly to the old rhythm only makes the transition more painful. From an energetic and astrological perspective, the moments right before a big breakthrough often feel the most confusing. You might experience repeated patterns, hearing the same song over and over, bumping into reminders of a person or place you thought you'd forgotten, or noticing angel numbers like 555 and 999 showing up in the most mundane places. These are not random. They are your environment mirroring your inner state and gently prompting you to pay attention. You don't have to make giant leaps to honor this shift. Often, the most powerful transformation comes from small, intentional acts. Take a walk alone in nature, not just for exercise, but to listen. Notice where your thoughts drift. Pay attention to where your energy feels blocked or heavy. Is there something or someone you're still dragging forward out of habit? Let that question sit with you, not as judgment, but as curiosity. In practical self-help terms, now is the time to simplify. Clean out your inbox, release physical clutter, unfollow accounts that trigger unnecessary comparison. These are not trivial acts, they're declarations. Each small choice becomes a statement to the universe that says, I'm ready for more. I'm no longer investing my energy in what drains me. And as someone once gently advised, when you reach a point of decision, choose the path that aligns with peace, not fear. The life you truly want will never require you to betray your core truth to maintain it. This is your season to realign with purpose, not perfection. If something feels off, that's not failure. It's direction. And if everything around you feels like it's shifting rapidly, take it as confirmation that something big is about to unfold. You don't need all the answers to take one brave step. And if you're feeling that it's time to change your environment, time to speak a new truth, time to make room for what's been waiting, I invite you to anchor that decision by commenting below. I choose to walk the new path. The wheel is already turning. The question now is, are you ready to rise with it, or will you hold yourself in the past because it's what you've always known? Either way, life will continue. But one of those options leads to freedom. And I have a feeling you already know which one is yours. When we arrive at the end of a journey like this, it's not really an ending at all, it's a return. A return to yourself. A return to the part of you that was buried under compromise, over-explaining, waiting, hoping, doubting. But Libra, something in you has shifted, and that shift cannot be undone. You are no longer the version of yourself who needed to be seen to feel valid. You now know that your light doesn't need permission to shine, it simply does. Throughout this reading, you've walked through the echoes of endings, the weight of returns, the revelation of inner radiance, the quiet power of emotional justice, and the soul-stirring call to choose a new path. Every insight offered here was not meant to entertain you, but to awaken you. To gently remind you that you've already survived what once tried to break you, and that is no small thing. That person from your past? They didn't come back to test your weakness. They came to meet your strength. To witness what happens when someone refuses to remain who they were just to make others comfortable. The true miracle isn't their return, it's your refusal to repeat. Maybe for the first time, you're not bending. You're not proving. You're not asking, why me? Instead, you're quietly whispering, not anymore. And that's where the power is. That's where the new chapter begins. So if you've been asking for a sign that you're on the right path, let this be it. The pain has served its purpose. The doubt has taught you discernment. And the silence you've carried? It's about to become your most powerful statement. Now, I want to leave you with a few gentle questions, not to answer right away, but to carry in your heart as the days unfold. What part of you is finally done waiting? What does freedom feel like in your body, and are you willing to honor it, even if it means walking alone for a while? And most importantly, can you love yourself enough to close the door without needing closure? Because real healing isn't always about hearing, "I'm sorry." Sometimes, it's about hearing your own voice say, "That chapter is closed." And if any part of this message resonated with your soul, I invite you to affirm it below by writing, "I am ready for truth, and I choose to live in my light." Let this be your sacred declaration to the universe, not just today, but every day forward. If you found even one sentence in this video that stirred something inside you, please like, comment, and subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your support not only helps grow this channel, it helps expand a spiritual space for people just like you, those who are ready to live honestly, fully, and fearlessly. And remember, some people won't recognize you anymore, but that's okay. Those who can't see who you've become were only ever meant to walk with who you used to be. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lost. You're just not the same, and that's your greatest gift. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next message right on time, as always.